Smoke signals a centuries-old ritual, the first vote to elect a new pope.
Tonight, the black smoke means no leader has been chosen. Good evening. Night has fallen in St. Peter's Square. It is now after midnight in Vatican City.
133 cardinals from around the world were sequestered today, locked away to begin the task of choosing the next leader of the Catholic Church. We begin our coverage with CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin watching, along with pilgrims and tourists.
In a world of high-tech telecommunications, eyes turned to smoke signals. Black, indicating no choice was made. The cardinals will return to the task of selecting the man who will be pope. The conclave began after a solemn procession into the Sistine Chapel, when cardinals swore an oath and famous words were spoken.
Extra omnes.
Meaning out everyone. The 133 voting cardinals are now cut off from the world. The day began with a mass. Cardinals from 70 countries, the most diverse group in history, including 4 from Canada, prayed for the help of the Holy Spirit. So that, said Cardinal Giovanni Battista, the Pope elected may be the one the Church and humanity need at this difficult and complex time in history. Father John Perdue from Ontario is studying in Rome. Back in 2013, when Pope Francis was chosen, he was a seminarian at St. Augustine in Scarborough.
Excitement is definitely contagious. Like, you can feel it. In the seminary, people were yelling in the halls, "White smoke, white smoke."
Now he's at Sant'Agostino in Rome, awaiting that same smoke.
There's many people, like I say, who wish they were here, so I'm trying to sort of, carry them in my heart.
The cardinals have returned to their living quarters at Santa Marta for the night, knowing now who has gotten more votes.
They caucus, they talk, and they think, which of these do I think would make the best pope?
4 secret ballots can be held per day as of tomorrow, until the crowd at St. Peter's Square sees white smoke.
Since 1939, there hasn't been a conclave that has lasted more than 3 days. But of course, we have very few clues as to what's happening inside. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News, Rome.
And the faithful here in Toronto are watching the events at the Vatican closely. CTV's Mike Walker's live outside St. Michael's Cathedral with local reaction to today's events. Mike.
Well, Nathan, all day we've been speaking with parishioners here at St. Michael's who have been closely monitoring their social media and news feeds, awaiting any possible election of a pope, and that's what they'll continue to do tomorrow. Many telling us they hope that the next pope will continue the legacy of Pope Francis. As the faithful gather to pray at St. Michael's Cathedral, anticipation is in the air, with the conclave now underway.
They've kept secret. We hope that somebody like Pope Francis
should be continued and more progress, especially for the poor and for the war.
And for the conclave taking place now in Rome.
Inside the church this afternoon, they prayed for the 133 cardinals tasked with electing the next leader of the Catholic Church.
We had a great Pope in Pope Francis. It's going to be really hard to figure out who's going to be the best one. They have a big job this afternoon.
Among them, the Archbishop of Toronto, Cardinal Frank Leo, and his predecessor, retired Cardinal Thomas Collins.
The task is for them to feel the gravity of this situation, of this decision.
But that decision won't be known today, just as we started our interview.
I have an image of the black smoke.
Father Frank Bertelli received multiple notifications and texts about the black smoke emerging from the Vatican, signaling that a new pope has not yet been elected. He says the task before the cardinals is one that puts politics aside and must focus on the future of the church.
The direction inspired by the difficulties globally, what are the challenges locally in any all parts of the world, war-torn areas, migration. So who will be the next person that could lead this family?
Pope Francis was widely known for his progressive stance on a range of issues. Some Toronto Catholics are hoping the next pontiff will continue the late Pope's legacy.
Issues of the acceptance of the church regarding the LGBTQ people. I believe that it's the inclusiveness of the church at this time. The church is evolving.
He's a little bit more liberal. More understanding to the needs of the people who are underprivileged, I think.
Others hoping the next pope will unite the faith and expand the church.
that the people who are Catholic now continue to stay Catholic, believe in God and trust God, and that hopefully we'll have some new people join our faith.
Now, officials with the Archdiocese of Toronto point out that recent conclaves have lasted anywhere between 2 or 3 days and are anticipating to find out who the new pope is by the end of this week, though time will only tell. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Just ahead, gearing up for big playoff action in town tonight. The Leafs looking to make it two in a row in round 2, while the Scepters hit the ice for a rematch against the defending champs.
But first, we turn to a plea from the Premier for children to get vaccinated as Ontario measles cases continue to climb.
It comes as the province came under fire over its response to the outbreak. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with those details. Siobhan.
Well, critics here at Queen's Park, including a former emergency room doctor, feel the government's not doing enough, really leaving parents out to dry to fend for themselves in the middle of this outbreak. The government, though, is defending its response. The steadily rising case count of measles in Ontario has set off alarms at Queen's Park.
This is a crisis, and what I'm hearing from the minister and from folks here in the legislature today in response to our questions was a pretty laissez-faire response.
There have been over 1,200 infections since mid-October, concentrated in southwestern Ontario in communities where vaccine uptake is low. Most of those cases link back to a gathering in New Brunswick last fall.
This is a government that has thrown up its hands, implemented half-hearted, lukewarm measures, and is trying to convince us that they care and that they're doing something.
The government defending its strategy of making shots more available, a new $2 million public awareness campaign, and work behind the scenes by the Chief Medical Officer of Health.
Over a year ago, he directed public health units to refocus their efforts on childhood vaccinations.
Is that working?
I believe it is.
If the plan is working, why does Ontario have the largest outbreak in all of North America? Come on. Be honest with people.
This afternoon, a plea from the Premier.
There's certain communities in Ontario, for religious reasons, are not getting their kids vaccinated. I encourage anyone and everyone, you need to get your kids vaccinated because if not, it just starts spreading.
The province's top doctor stresses measles isn't spreading in public schools, hospitals, or doctors' offices because 95% of Ontarians are covered by vaccines.
I should point out, though, in unvaccinated communities in the southwest, so farming communities, rural communities, we are seeing active spread.
Dr. Kieran Moore concedes there's more outreach to do with those rejecting vaccines. For Doug Ford, the issue of religious exemptions is a tricky one.
But how do you force someone? Do you grab their kid and start jabbing them with a needle? It's a problem. I agree. But we're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this.
Dr. Moore explains that even if a child has an exemption for a measles vaccine, if the virus shows up at their school, they won't be allowed to return until the measles is gone. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still ahead, Prime Minister Mark Carney briefs Canada's provincial leaders about his face-to-face with Trump and stresses the need for unity during the ongoing trade war. A follow-up now to a story we brought you last week. A small plane that crashed into Lake Ontario has now been recovered. The crash happened Friday afternoon off the shore of Tommy Thompson Park. Police say the plane lost engine power and the 49-year-old pilot deployed the plane's parachute before it hit the water. He was the only person on board and was quickly rescued with minor injuries. The Transportation Safety Board says the plane was pulled out of the lake today and the investigation is ongoing.
Well, we take a live look outside this evening on what has been a beautiful day, full of sunshine and spring warmth. This is what many of us have been longing for this month. And while, a little bit of wet weather is possible tonight, we are embarking on a gorgeous stretch of sunshine. Look at that skyline this hour. Lindsay Morrison is here with the good news. Lindsay.
Yeah, overall, a pretty spectacular day, Michelle. I hope everyone had an opportunity to spend some time outside. Still very comfortable at this hour, even Barrie at 13 degrees. That's not bad. 21 in both Hamilton and Peterborough. Downtown Toronto, you're going to find the temperature still close to 20 degrees. Similar conditions at Pearson Airport. Now, we did mention the potential for a shower. We're seeing a little bit of wet weather now starting to make its way over Lake Ontario, but it did impact the west end of the GTA. A few showers just north of Lake Simcoe as well. We're tapping into a north wind right now. That's going to cool us down for tonight, but I don't think anyone will be complaining at Maple Leaf Square. Finally, some drier weather in the forecast for the big game tonight. We're going to take a full look at your forecast a little later in the program. For now, Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And look at this. We are live over Scotiabank Arena as we follow the puck on a very big night in local sports. 2 professional teams playing playoff hockey tonight. CTV's Sean Leathong is with fans at Maple Leaf Square. Game 2 of round 2 for the Leafs. And Raheem Ladani's at Coca-Cola Coliseum, where the Toronto Scepters will hit the ice in their playoff push. But we start with Sean and the Leafs hoping to pounce on the Panthers again tonight, Sean.
Well, they got what they wanted in Game 2, and the fans here have ramped things up considerably. There's a goaltending controversy. Joseph Woll will be starting at net tonight, but these fans say the team needs to be all business.
At the morning skate, all eyes were on the Leafs goaltenders to see who would be in net. In is Joseph Woll, who will start Game 2, his first playoff start since last season.
We've got a lot of confidence in him. He's extremely focused, does all the right things.
We got all the faith in him. He's always played tremendous hockey here for us over this season and his time here, so I know he's excited about getting the opportunity.
In 2 playoff games last year, Woll shut the door on the Boston Bruins, winning games 5 and 6 for the Leafs.
And Bennett, another jam. Benoit sends it to the boards. Penalty done. Stolars is down.
Woll entered Game 1 of this series after starter Anthony Stolars was taken to hospital. Stolars leaving a few minutes after this collision with Florida's Sam Bennett. When asked how to get revenge,
to win. I think that's how you get them. I think play the same way, physical, play their top guys hard, and at the end of the day, yeah, it's about winning.
After their skate this morning, Panthers head coach Paul Maurice was asked how he thinks Bennett will handle any extra attention from Leafs fans.
Are they bringing their skates?
You never know in Toronto.
As for those fans, Bennett is not their concern.
No, I think they should just play hard, and the best punishment for the Panthers is that they eliminate them in the playoffs.
We know how much trouble Florida can give us. We just have to hit them where it hurts. Their game.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to wait, and we're going to have to be the bigger boys, and we're the men, they're the boys.
Now you can see what's going on inside Maple Leaf Square. The crowd is absolutely loving it. Their team is up 1-0 in the second round of the playoffs, but they're not satisfied there. This crowd wants another one. They want to get out of Toronto with 2 wins to see what they can possibly bring back to Florida, because this crowd, as I said before, wants to be all business. They want the title to come home. Reporting live on Sean Leathong, I'll send it back to you.
Oh, thank you, Sean. Loving the energy. What a fabulous crowd. And we want to take you just down the Gardner. CTV's Raheem Ladani is at Coca-Cola Coliseum, where the PWHL playoffs begin. Our Toronto Scepters are hosting the league's defending champs. Raheem.
Hey, Michelle, a little quieter here outside Coca-Cola Coliseum, but there is still quite a bit of energy. In fact, we even saw some fans with actual scepters walking into the arena. There's a lot of pent-up energy because fans have been waiting for this rematch in the playoffs. As broadcast crews prepare for playoff hockey outside the Coca-Cola Coliseum, inside the arena, the ice is set for a rematch between the Toronto Scepters and Minnesota Frost.
We worked pretty hard all season at getting our team ready for playoff hockey, and now we're up for the test, so it's a new challenge for us.
While General Manager Gina Kingsbury says they're not looking at this as a revenge series, it's hard not to. Last playoffs, the Scepters were in complete control of the 5-game series, up 2-0. But then star forward Natalie Spooner suffered a season-ending torn anterior cruciate ligament in her left knee. After that, the Frost fought back to beat the Scepters and went on to win the inaugural Walter Cup.
You can't write this story any brighter for this to be a rematch. Last year, Toronto finished first overall, so they got to select their opponent, and they selected Minnesota. Sure enough, it does backfire. Minnesota completes that reverse sweep.
The good news is Natalie Spooner is back, and the Scepters appear to finally have a healthy lineup, which wasn't the case for the majority of the season. And still, after a sluggish start and losing 3 out of their final 4 games, the Scepters finished second in the standings, with their focus now on the Frost.
putting up some goals early in the first period against Minnesota. They've really struggled to score in the first period this season. And also, I'd say leaning on that depth scoring.
Momentum from the first PWHL season continues to build around North America, and Toronto is leading the way. This regular season, the Scepters averaged more than 9,000 fans in the stands per game. That's the highest average in the league.
We hope to sell out the barn again tonight for playoffs.
Now there are rally tallies inside the arena, rally towels that is, inside the arena for everyone that has a ticket. Puck drop is at 7 o'clock and Game 2 goes here on Friday. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Raheem. Well, we're still over a year away, but we're learning more about plans to celebrate FIFA World Cup matches being played in Toronto. Today, the city announced the official venues for a fan festival will be at the Fort York National Historic Site and the Bentway under the Gardner. Officials say it will include art, music, and food, as well as free live broadcasts of the games. It will run between June 11th and 19th of 2026.
Police are asking for your help as they investigate a string of vandalism in Vaughan where speed enforcement cameras were damaged. Between January and April, York Regional Police say they responded to 9 separate incidents of vandalism involving 3 speed cameras. They include ones on Peter Rupert Avenue, Hilda Avenue, and New Westminster Drive. One person has been charged to date, but investigators say others may be involved.
It is a mischief to property, and it is over $5,000. Anybody that is arrested for doing any damage to these property could face both civil and criminal prosecution.
Police say they'd like to speak to anyone with security or dash camera footage from where these cameras are located. They'd also like to hear from anyone who may have witnessed any suspicious activity nearby. Well, in the wake of Mark Carney's face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump, the PM briefed premiers and territorial leaders today on what was discussed and the path forward.
CTV's senior political correspondent Mike Lecouture has the details.
A day after the historic meeting in the Oval Office, the Prime Minister is getting high praise from premiers for how it went.
I don't think I'd have the restraint that he had yesterday, to be very frank.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford applauded Prime Minister Carney for what he called a successful meeting in Washington. In a 75-minute call between the premiers and the Prime Minister today, Ford says there was a sense of unity amongst the leaders.
I was pretty blunt. I said, you know, it's time that your government starts showing some love to Saskatchewan and Alberta, because as I said, like, the last Prime Minister showed no love. Matter of fact, to the contrary.
But that unity is being tested in Alberta, where Premier Danielle Smith has spoken about a referendum on separation. On CTV's Power Play with Vashi Kapelos, Smith said she wouldn't stand in the way of secession.
What I have said is that I will respect the outcome of citizen-initiated referenda, and that's why it's my job to make sure it doesn't get to that point.
Premier Ford said Carney asked premiers to give him a list of 5 priorities on large national infrastructure projects. Ford says it's time to build pipelines across the country using Ontario steel, a sentiment echoed by Alberta's premier, but she's watching the Prime Minister's next move.
This is something that we will get an indication of very quickly, of whether or not he's willing to turn the page on the past 10 years and move forward in a different direction. And I'm hopeful that he does. I think it would be nation building, and I think it would be unifying.
The work to keep all of the premiers on the same page will continue at the next First Minister's meeting in Saskatchewan on June 2nd. And the Prime Minister's office confirms Carney will be there. Mike Lecouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
The Toronto District School Board is calling on the province to change the funding formula for public education. The TDSB is trying to address a $58 million budget deficit this school year. It's proposed closing swimming pools and eliminating music instructors as potential cost-cutting measures. Ontario's education ministers warn the province will probe the board's finances and is considering taking over control. The TDSB says it's dealing with chronic underfunding.
While the Ministry of Education will tell you that they have increased educational funding, it is not the full story. The absolute number might have increased, but it's not kept up with inflation. As you all know, the dollar 10 years ago does not go far enough as a dollar today. This is felt across all sections of our education system, but particularly evident and particularly troubling when it comes to special education, when it comes to mental health support. So we have a crisis in public education system.
Instead of cutting programs, the province has suggested the TDSB reduce its number of superintendents.
We want to warn you some of the details in this next story are graphic. Today, Toronto City Councillor Michael Thompson, who is accused of sexual assault, returned to the witness stand. As CTV's Mike Arsalidis reports, the politician denies the allegations.
An emotional Michael Thompson started crying on the witness stand, telling the court about the moment he found out he was being charged with 2 counts of sexual assault. Michael Thompson vehemently denied touching either of the young women accusing him of sexual assault without their consent at a Port Carling cottage over the 2022 Canada Day long weekend. Thompson returned to the witness stand Wednesday, where defense lawyer Leora Shemish asked him for his version of events, telling the court he was awoken by the naked woman at 2 in the morning in his bedroom. Moments later, the woman kissed him in the kitchen and went to her bedroom after sipping shots of tequila with him, calling it a continuation of their kissing and touching from earlier in the day, saying the complainant took the lead, telling the court at no point was she blacked out, unconscious, asleep, uncomfortable, or resistant, never saying no to Thompson. He testified the complainant initiated and performed oral sex on him, and they both enjoyed the moment. When asked by his lawyer whether he ever touched the complainant without her consent or forced himself on or took advantage of her, Thompson repeatedly said no. Thompson is also accused of touching another woman under her bikini top. He denied it adamantly. He also denied testimony from a witness in October that a friend of his was grooming women or that women were invited to the cottage for sexual reasons. There was no issue at all, Thompson testified, saying at no point did anyone appear to be uncomfortable. Thompson admitted to smoking marijuana with the women and bringing wine and tequila to the cottage. He said at no point was anyone intoxicated. He testified inviting several people to the cottage that weekend to relax and unwind, many of whom canceled or couldn't attend. 2 women who described themselves as friends of his testified they were invited to the cottage with their families by Thompson, but couldn't make it. The trial is scheduled to continue tomorrow with further testimony from Thompson. Mike Arsalidis, CTV News, Barrie.
A new Toronto police report shows 2024 was another record year for hate crimes reported across the city. Police have highlighted a surge in hate-motivated incidents in the wake of October 7th and the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. They say 443 occurrences were reported last year, up from 372 in 2023. The Jewish community was once again targeted in the highest number of incidents reported, 177. The queer community was targeted in 79, and the black community in 76. The South Asian, Muslim, and East and South Asian communities were also among the most targeted groups. The hate crime numbers are set to be tabled at the Police Services Board meeting next week. Now to a major escalation between 2 nuclear-armed neighbors. India and Pakistan appear to be inching closer to an all-out war.
CTV's Abigail Beeman is following developments out of the region.
Early this morning, India launched a series of missile strikes in Pakistan and Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. Panic spread and we were told to leave, says this witness. Pakistan claimed it shot down 5 Indian warplanes, while the Prime Minister called India's strikes an act of war and vowed retaliation.
Crossing the international boundary, this is the clear-cut violation and invitation to expand the conflict.
India claims it only targeted militants. The overall death toll now in the dozens, with casualties on both sides. Tensions began after India blamed Pakistan for supporting a deadly tourist attack on the Indian-controlled side of disputed Kashmir, which Islamabad denied. It's the biggest escalation between the 2 nuclear-armed neighbors in decades.
There have definitely been fears when mediation's taken place. One of the dangers now is that there's no real mediator to step up.
The Canadian government already had advisories in place for India and Pakistan, telling travelers to exercise a high degree of caution. In the last 24 hours, it issued updates, warning the airspace may close over India and already has over Pakistan, and the situation could deteriorate rapidly.
Good relationships with both, and I want to see it stop. And if I can do anything to help, I will be there.
This all unfolding in one of the most dangerous and populous regions in the world. The Indian Prime Minister has yet to speak publicly. One expert tells CTV News if Narendra Modi believes his point has been made and India appears as a major power, it may be a hope for de-escalation. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up, a solution to a persistent problem among the homeless who end up in and out of hospital. How an innovative program is supporting unhoused patients following hospitalization.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, housing is expensive, which is why there's an interest in tiny homes and cottages. But before you buy one, there are zoning rules that could affect where you're allowed to put one. A woman lost a $54,000 deposit on a tiny home project. All of that story, that's just ahead.
Another nice day for tomorrow. We are going to start off with some cloud cover in the morning, but it clears out for the afternoon. Noticeably cooler compared to today. And with all that sunshine, we have to start talking about the UV index. It's going to be moderate for us in Toronto tomorrow, but high further north. Time to start slathering on the sunscreen. A lot more sunshine in store for the weekend. We'll talk all about it coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
With the average price of a home in the GTA topping $1 million, the thought of owning a tiny home may be appealing for some buyers.
But when it comes to tiny homes, there are rules and regulations around zoning, and the smaller structures may not be allowed. Pat Foran has our story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan. And Michelle, a Pickering woman liked the idea of buying a tiny home. She saw one advertised on social media. She put down a deposit of more than $50,000, but the project fell through, and now she's trying to get back her money. What was your dream when you wanted this?
To live in the country, quiet life.
Janice Smith of Pickering wanted to downsize her home and live in a rural area. That's why in the fall of 2023, she was interested when she saw an ad for tiny cottages on Instagram.
It was small, it had no stairs, it came fully furnished. It was really nice. Countryside living, perfect.
There were several locations to choose from. She picked a tiny cottage in Ancaster in Hamilton. She would have to purchase the tiny home and then lease the land it was on.
It's a tiny cottage combination of a trailer because it does have wheels. You can pick it up and take it wherever you want it.
She chose a tiny cottage with Resort HQ selling for $250,000 and gave the company a deposit of almost $55,000. She was supposed to move in last summer, but last spring she got a call with some bad news.
The deal didn't go through. They were having conflicts with the municipality.
The tiny cottages were considered illegal because they did not conform to zoning bylaws. A spokesperson told CTV News the City of Hamilton Building Division issued orders directing the removal of illegally constructed structures on the property. We spoke with Smith in the fall. She was told she would get a refund of her deposit and receive 22 post-dated checks, but they all bounced.
These are all the NSF, every single one of them.
We reached out to Resort HQ on Smith's behalf, and the owner, Joe Accardi, told us it has never been a question of returning the deposit or not. It will be returned. 4 months later, Smith says she has still not received her refund.
Nothing has come to me, no information, no funds, nothing.
Resort HQ said it was taking legal action against the City of Hamilton regarding the zoning issue. As for Smith's deposit, Accardi now says the newest timeline to get you paid back is 6 to 9 months. Smith remains concerned, and her plans to own a tiny home are now on hold indefinitely. And when buying a tiny home, you have to do your research. You need to make sure it adheres to provincial building codes, local bylaws, and is legal to be used in the area where you want to set it up. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, what a great day we had. Felt like summer, perfect conditions to be standing outside cheering on your team.
Oh, my goodness. Exciting times in the city, the sports, but then also this weather. I mean, it does feel like we've turned a corner. You've got the warmth and then leaves on the trees. It's beautiful.
I've been hearing from so many people who are ready to spend time in their backyards or on their balconies, maybe start a little bit of gardening. I know typically we say wait until perhaps the May long weekend, but with a forecast like this, I wouldn't blame you for getting out there a little early. Not only is it going to be sunny, but we are looking at some very warm conditions into next week. with a cool down for tonight and tomorrow. We just have to get through that. This is what it looked like a little bit earlier on today. Beautiful blue sky, beautiful blue lake, just a lovely start to the day. And we had the threat of showers once again for today. It was a small chance, and most of us have managed to escape with a dry day. That looks to be the story now as we head into the evening. Very similar conditions. Most communities are going to stay dry and mild for now. Here's a look at the current temperatures. We have cooled down in through northern parts of Ontario thanks to the passing of a cold front. We're going to feel that a little bit later on as well. We're already tapping into some northerly winds, and after the front passes, eventually we fall to a low of 8 degrees in Toronto, which is normal for this time of year. 0 for you in Parry Sound, 3 degrees the forecast low in Bancroft. Waking up tomorrow morning, the temperature could fall as low as about 7 degrees, and we do expect that there will be some cloud cover, but it starts to break up mid-morning, and then by the afternoon, mix of sun and cloud. Afternoon high 15 degrees, so that's a little cooler than seasonal. Average daytime high at this point in May is now about 18 degrees. The cool down, though, bit of a one-off. We're gradually going to warm up into the weekend, and then as mentioned, early next week is looking like it could bring us some of our warmest air of the season so far. Here's a look at the satellite and radar. I was watching this little blip on the radar around Oakville and Burlington. That has now moved off over Lake Ontario. Might impact some areas in Niagara. And then in through eastern sections of Ontario, this is a part of the province we're going to continue to monitor thanks to this low pressure system that just continues to spin and rotate, not moving very quickly. And as a result, some cloud spillover and some wet weather possible really anywhere from Kingston over toward Ottawa still over the next couple of days. There's that cloud cover that I mentioned for us tomorrow morning. A few showers possible as well around extreme southwestern Ontario. But overall, we are going to be dry for the next couple of days here. There's your Thursday afternoon. Friday's looking bright at this point. And so too is Saturday, Sunday, and guess what? Monday as well. Here's the 7-day forecast. Temperature up around 21 degrees for the high on Saturday. Right now, Mother's Day is looking pretty pleasant. A little bit cooler, 16 for the high. Then we're up around 25 into Monday. If you're waiting for the next round of rain, it looks like that could come perhaps next Tuesday, but might just be in the form of a few showers. Not a good, healthy amount of rain, which could have been helpful for the garden. We'll keep an eye on things, but for now, that's your look at the forecast. Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, get your popcorn ready. TIFF is celebrating 50 years with a special series of summer screenings. A preview of the cinematic lineup just ahead.
Each year, almost 250,000 Canadians experience homelessness.
Getting them vital health care can be challenging, but as CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan reports, one program has found success.
There are more than 10,000 people experiencing homelessness in Toronto on any given night. The numbers have increased dramatically since COVID.
And Dr. Stephen Huang says the medical problems they face can be life-threatening.
Skin or soft tissue infections, which we call cellulitis. They may have breathing or respiratory problems like pneumonia or COPD. They sometimes have heart conditions such as heart failure, uncontrolled diabetes.
St. Michael's Hospital has the highest concentration of unhoused patients in Ontario, and research showed 30% of those patients who turned up at emergency were returning within 3 months, more than twice the rate of other patients. It pointed to a need for follow-up attention.
They need a place to recuperate. They need friends or family or home care to support them. They need to take medications, maybe get wound care.
The Navigator program was created in 2019 through private donations.
Hi, how are you doing today?
From one Navigator, the program now has 3 people helping clients get whatever they need after leaving the hospital. One male client writes, "I'm homeless, I am bipolar, so I've got a mental disability and I've got crutches I got to walk around on. Having my Navigator has been extremely beneficial and they're flexible, they're always there." Another says, "My Navigator makes sure that I get transport. The day that I left the shelter to go to the hospital, I didn't have access to clothing, so my Navigator saw that and put all those things in place for me. Also my medication. They got it and made sure everything was in place." Huang says the modern world often sees technology as the solution to many problems.
And so our intervention is what I would call high touch. rather than high tech.
The program has proven so successful that it is now expanding to Montreal and Vancouver thanks to a generous corporate donation. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
As the weather gets warmer, the city's launching a pilot program that will provide 500 air conditioning units to seniors and other vulnerable residents.
This is not just an appliance, not just an air conditioning unit. It makes sure the seniors can, or people living in these apartments can be safe, that they could actually enjoy the summer and not worried about being so hot. And sometimes it can even save lives.
Advocacy group Acorn says it's important to ensure broader access to air conditioners for those in need.
This initiative started when we see members in our community that they were not able to go to the cooling centers because they don't have TTC means, isn't it? They don't have the money. It's a good news for people. It's an opportunity for people. It gives hope.
The city says the air conditioning pilot program will cost $200,000, and you can access an application through the city's website, and a lottery will be held to determine who gets an AC unit.
As the Toronto International Film Festival prepares to celebrate its 50th anniversary in September, it's planning a special series of summer screenings. Titled The TIFF Story in 50 Films, it will showcase movies that have defined the festival's evolution over the last 5 decades. They'll include global breakthrough hits like Slumdog Millionaire and Canadian productions like Water by Deepa Mehta. TIFF CEO Cameron Bailey says several selections are films TIFF championed early on before they achieved wider success. Screenings run June 13th to August 27th at the Lightbox in Toronto. Well, music, comedy, and technology are being put in the spotlight for the first annual Departure Festival and Conference.
But this event actually has a long history in the city. CTV's Andrea Case joins us from Hotel X, where festivities are well underway. Andrea.
Nathan and Michelle, I'm here on the 3rd floor of Hotel X, and who do we see but the incredible, the statuesque, the Juno Award-winning Julie Black is here. Julie, Departure is something new, but you've been involved in Canadian Music Week for years. Why is it important that the industry recognizes each other?
It is so important that we recognize each other because we are one team, one dream. There are those who are emerging, but there's also those who have emerged before technology, before there's an opportunity to connect with the click of a mouse, right? So for Departure to celebrate film, TV, comedy, all the things, we have the best exports in all of those departments. Now, come to Canada. Right, and CMW, Canadian Music Week, created an amazing passing of the baton. Shout out to Neil Dixon, right? Because blood, sweat, and tears, and it's like, you know what? Let's pass it on. Let's go from peak to peak.
People are really interested in Departure because it is comedy, it is technology, it is music. This is a difficult time in the industry for a lot of people. What's going on south of the border? Why is it important that Canadians now perhaps really look at what we can do and really shout out to the world?
I think for the first time ever, we could turn this trial, so to speak, into triumph. And now we're looking at the Maple Leaf. We're realizing not only are we just as talented, but more, and that we've been exporting our gifts for years and years. Now there's Canadian pride in a way I've never seen in my 47 years on the planet. So people are coming to us, looking to us, also in sport. The NBA is filled with people from Canada, right? So I feel like it's a great time. Dust off your talent, dust off your dreams. I don't care how old you are. My mom would say, as long as you have life, you have time. Whether you're 5 to 85, this is our time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Julie Black, who's getting married in less than
39 days.
39 days. So something else to celebrate. Julie, thanks for stopping. Have a good time tonight. Departure wraps up on May the 11th. It's here at Hotel X. Come on down. If you're in the industry, want to be in the industry, or want to take in some shows, 40 different venues in the city right now have events going on. Reporting from Hotel X, I'm Andrea Case. I'll send it back to the studio.
Thanks, Andrea, and congratulations, Julie. How exciting. Well, after the break, Disney announces an all-new theme park in the Middle East. Just ahead, a peek at the plans for the new resort destination in Abu Dhabi.
They talk and they think, which of these do I think would make the best pope?
Updating our top stories, the world's eyes are on the Vatican as the process of choosing the next pope is underway. 133 cardinals are sequestered for the conclave, and they will vote over the coming days to select Pope Francis's successor. Black smoke from the Sistine Chapel today indicates that decision has not been made yet.
It's a problem. I agree. But we're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this.
Premier Doug Ford and Health Minister Sylvia Jones are pushing back on criticism over the handling of an ongoing measles outbreak. There have been over 1,200 infections since mid-October, mainly in southwestern Ontario. The Premier says efforts are ongoing to encourage vaccinations, but noted some communities claim religious exemptions.
Got all the faith in them. They've always played tremendous hockey here.
And it's an exciting night for local hockey fans as both the Toronto Maple Leafs and Toronto Scepters hit the ice for playoff matches. The Leafs are in Game 2 of their series with the Panthers. Joseph Woll will start in net for the Leafs after Anthony Stolarz was injured in Game 1. The Scepters are hosting the Minnesota Frost, the defending champs, at Coca-Cola Coliseum.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
We heard from the U.S. Federal Reserve today on interest rates. BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has the details.
The U.S. Federal Reserve Chair has, as expected, kept the lending rate unchanged, saying he needs to see how the American tariffs play out. But Jerome Powell did say the risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation are up. Powell says he can't make any preemptive move because he doesn't have the data. The last rate cut in the U.S. was December. Here's how the trading day ended. The Canadian dollar is down to 72.28. West Texas Intermediate is down over $1 to 58.07. Our fix on Western Canadian Select has it up more than $2 to 49.62. And the TSX is up 186 points today, pushing over 25,000 to 25,161. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Weight Watchers has filed for bankruptcy. The company is known for its point counting program that has dominated dieting spaces for decades, but it struggled in recent years as it's fallen into more than $1 billion in debt. Analysts have linked those challenges in part to newer weight loss options, including Ozempic. Weight Watchers says it expects to emerge as a publicly traded company, and operations will continue as normal for its members.
Disney has reached an agreement to bring a new theme park and resort to Abu Dhabi. Disney is teaming up with an Abu Dhabi-based company to build a waterfront resort. It'll be located on an island in the United Arab Emirates, and it will be Disney's 7th theme park resort around the world when it opens its doors to the public. There's no word on exactly when that will be, but Disney execs say they see an opportunity for growth in the Middle East and neighboring regions.
We think about a market like India, which is a massive market for us, and the Indians' love of the Disney brand is significant. So throughout this whole region, although we've catered to these guests before, we haven't been able to serve them in a proximate way, and we're going to be able to do that now.
Disney says its division that includes parks, cruises, and other experiences makes up around 60% of its annual profit.
Just ahead, taking a walk through the countryside. The Bata Shoe Museum opens a new exhibit looking at the history of the cowboy boot.
Tonight, surviving a serious health scare.
I just kept on thinking it was the worst flu bug I had ever had in my life.
A patient's plea to get vaccinated against what can be a deadly disease. That story and more later on CTV National News.
For 30 years, Toronto's Bata Shoe Museum has walked visitors through history using fascinating footwear.
To celebrate the milestone, curators are kicking up their heels with their latest exhibit. CTV's Jessica Smith reports.
30 years of shoes that have helped walk us through history.
Thinking back over our 30-year history, what we have historically done is look at things that we think we know and try to tease out the aspects of their history that need further investigation.
And to kick off their 30th anniversary, the Bata Shoe Museum has opened a new exhibit titled Rough and Ready, A History of the Cowboy Boot.
It has embodied ideas of labor and leisure, of unrest and romance, of individuality and group identity. It felt to me like this is the perfect time to try to grapple with this form of footwear.
Giving a glimpse into the formidable footwear of the first Cowboys, to the Canadian connections and the pop culture resurgence.
When you think about Beyonce and you think about Little Nas X and what they are doing, it's both a reclamation of the true history of who Cowboys were, but it's also a reclamation of this musical tradition.
Opening up a world of possibilities for the future of cowboy boots while acknowledging the past.
I'm a fashion student at Toronto Metropolitan University, and so it's so exciting to see all of this fashion history all in one place.
The Rough and Ready, a history of the cowboy boot exhibition will be here at the Bata Shoe Museum through to October 2026. Jessica Smith, CTV News.
Okay, let's get you caught up on the weather forecast because we are embarking on glorious weather. Today's pretty nice. Are you still seeing that chance of rain?
We're just going to call it a chance of rain. I think most areas are in the clear at this point through the evening hours, so that's great news. We'll begin with one more look at the satellite and radar imagery. A lot of clear sky in many areas. Just you can see just a little bit of green in parts of the GTA, specifically over Lake Ontario right now. Forecast low tonight is about 8 degrees. We may not get wet weather, but we are expecting an increase in cloud, and that will be with us in the morning. But hey, going to be a good day tomorrow to hit the links, get out the golf clubs. And yeah, temperature is going to be a little cool tomorrow, but look at the rest of the week and into the weekend. And a reminder, tonight's Lotto 649 Gold Ball jackpot is $60 million, plus the classic $5 million jackpot. You can buy your tickets in-store or at olg.ca. Play responsibly, 18+. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a wonderful night.